For the past 3.5 decades, the Ford Explorer has been America's quintessential three-row family SUV. And when the company introduced the all-new 6th generation model back in 2020, they really wanted to return the Explorer back to its original roots by switching it over to a rear-drive architecture and introducing the first performance variant dubbed the Explorer ST. Now, of course, in that time frame, we've seen a bunch of new competitors come into the space. So for 2025, Ford is looking to make some big upgrades to the Explorer family, which includes new styling in the front and the rear, an all-new infotainment system, and for you driving enthusiasts out there, the return of the ST variant that still delivers up to 400 horsepower underneath the hood. So today we're actually out here in Detroit, Michigan to finally get behind the wheel of the all-new Explorer ST. And the big question I want answered, if you guys are a driving enthusiast and you need space for your family and their stuff, how does the brand new 2025 Explorer ST stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So if you guys know the Ford Performance sub-brand, you'll know that if you find a Ford vehicle with the ST badge, it usually means it has upgrades to the suspension, to the handling, to the powertrain. So when Ford decided to put an ST badge on this vehicle, they were serious about making this an enthusiast-oriented vehicle. Now, of course, before we start talking about the styling changes, the big thing, of course, with driving enthusiasts is what's going on underneath the hood, because the Explorer ST essentially replaces the old Explorer Sport, but it did get some upgrades in terms of the powertrain when this generation first came out. But for 2025, they pretty much stay the same. It's still a 3-liter twin turbocharged gasoline direct injection double overhead cam V6. It makes the same 400 horsepower, so it's among the best in the segment, and 415 pound-feet of torque. Now, power goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission, and you can still take your pick between either a rear-wheel drive ST or for $2,000 extra, Ford will sell you their intelligent all-wheel drive system, which I imagine most people probably tend to choose, especially if you live here in Michigan. Now, in terms of fuel efficiency, this model is rated at 18 in the city and 24 on the highway. Those numbers were achieved by using premium gas, but you can run this engine on regular if you guys prefer, but it'll probably lower the horsepower down slightly. Ford didn't confirm what the horsepower is on regular fuel. And then in terms of the fuel tank capacity, this is around 20 gallons. 20.2 gallons, so it's a little bit bigger versus the 4-cylinder, which is the base engine. The company doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but we'll get it out on the road. We'll see what we can get in our actual testing. The Explorer ST has a top speed of just shy of 150 miles an hour. So again, this is supposed to be the performance-oriented variant. And this model will also tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds. As this sits, this car weighs in at around 4,600 pounds. If you guys are looking for the hybrid, sadly, that has been discontinued for 2025. But let's go ahead and close up this hood here, which, as you can see, is held up by a prop rod as opposed to struts. But when you close up the hood, you can see the face of the Explorer has been significantly updated. And I think Ford did a fantastic job with giving it a slightly more masculine and bolder appearance to it. I love the new grille on the ST specifically. You can see there's a black mesh insert which just lets in more air to allow for cooling for the engine. There's also an ST badge there at the side to let everybody know that you have the performance-oriented variant. And just like when this generation first came out, it boldly spells Explorer along the front part of the hood. The headlights have also been redesigned where they have more of an angular shape to them, and they're slightly larger, I believe. They're a full LED where you have LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals, LED low and high beams, and then the ST also includes LED fog lights down here. The front fascia in general is just a little bit more aggressive, but if you guys want the look of the ST, there's also an ST line which has the base 2-liter or 2.3-liter turbo. We'll show you guys a separate clip on that later on in this video. Now, this vehicle is built on the same CD6 rear-wheel drive architecture that also underpins the new Lincoln Aviator. Remember, the two vehicles share the same platform. And when you look at the dimensions of the Explorer ST, this used to be among the bigger mid-size 3-row SUVs. However, with new competition, this is now among the more smaller variants. However, this is still a pretty big vehicle at 198.7 inches long, just under 199. It does have among the more longer wheelbases in the segment at 119.1 inches long. So again, the wheels are pushed out to the corner. It really gives it a more aggressive stance with that classic rear-wheel drive proportion. Now you can see these are the standard wheels that you get with the ST. I actually think I might prefer the wheels on the pre-refreshed ST where they have the gloss black finish, but you can see Ford calls these a magnetite 21-inch alloy wheel with kind of this like matte finish gray look, which does look really nice, especially with the carbonized gray exterior color. It kind of just matches really nicely. You have the upgraded performance brakes with red painted calipers. They're riding on a 275 by 45 R21-inch Pirelli Scorpio P0 all-season tire. You have around 7.8 inches of ground clearance with this vehicle. You have an all-independent suspension, but no air suspension. Keep in mind the Platinum grade has a little bit more ground clearance for some reason at 8.2. The Timberline has been discontinued for now. You can see also the wheel arch trim and the side sills are unpainted. I think it actually would look better if Ford did offer a full paint finish, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the styling upgrades. You can see the ST also includes black painted side mirrors with integrated turn signals or power folding. And then if you guys want to spend almost $5,000 extra, Ford will happily paint the roof of this vehicle black. So I think, you know, if you want that feature, it's kind of nice, but I think Ford also charges a little bit too much. This model that you're seeing here is missing the twin panel moonroof. That's an extra $1,700 if you guys want that. I highly recommend it, especially if you guys need more light into this interior. This is only offered with a black interior. And then you can see here, looking at the rear, the taillight design has also been slightly upgraded where it's still a full LED. It's got this new LED light bar that kind of goes into the midsection of the tailgate. You can see the taillights themselves appear to be a little bit wider. I like the new light signature. There's a subtle ST badge over here as well to let everybody know that you have the performance-oriented variant. And then you can see the rear exhaust tips, the quad outlet exhaust system, is not exclusive to the ST. You'll actually get that exhaust system also on the Platinum if you have the twin turbo V6. It certainly gives this thing a more aggressive look to it. You also have the tow hitch receiver standard. This vehicle, remember, will tow up to 5,000 pounds, nicely integrated parking sensors, and then of course cameras, and Ford's Copilot 360 is going to be standard on this vehicle. Blue Cruise is a new option for 2025. Now opening up the cargo area, this is where the Explorer also falls more mid-pack because remember, it's not as big as its competitors. You have, with third row up, a maximum of 16.3 cubic feet of storage space, which is fine. It's a little bit less, around 4 cubic feet less than a lot of its main rivals. You can see my backpack fits pretty nicely back here. And then there's also a nice little feature where you can, you know, hide a few things underneath the floor, or the load floor is a little bit lower. You can also take this and kind of place it down in there so you have a deeper storage area, which is also nice. And then if you push this button here, you can see the third row will fold down, and that does expand the cargo capacity to around 46 cubic feet of space, which again is more mid-pack to average. If you fold down the second row as well, Ford says you get a maximum of just over 85 cubic feet of space, which is nice. However, if you're looking at something like the new Toyota Grand Highlander, that vehicle offers roughly 10 more cubic feet of total maximum storage. Now, if you guys don't need the power of the ST version, Ford will also sell you an ST line, which essentially looks like the ST, but it comes standard with the company's base engine. It's a 2.3 liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's essentially been plucked out of the new generation Ford Mustang EcoBoost, and in the Explorer ST line, it makes 300 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Remember, this is the base motor that delivers around 300 horsepower, which is a pretty healthy amount. It all goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission. And remember, this vehicle is standard with rear-wheel drive. This one that we're showing you has the company's intelligent all-wheel drive system for an extra $2,000. The all-wheel drive system does lower the fuel economy slightly too. It's still pretty good, 20 in the city, 27 on the highway. The rear-wheel drive version will get 21, 29. It's rated to run on regular gas. However, the 300 horsepower number is achieved by using premium fuel. Ford says you have around an 18-gallon fuel tank. It's slightly smaller versus the fuel tank in the V6 variant, so you should be able to do around 400 miles of range on a full tank. Now, Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. I'd estimate this model will probably be in the 7-second range. We'll test it out when we get it out on the road. In terms of the towing capacity, all Explorers will tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds, so it doesn't matter whether you go for the 4 or the V6. The 4-cylinder is lighter, however, as this one sits, it weighs in at around 4,300 pounds, so it's around 300 pounds lighter versus the heavier 6-cylinder option. Now, I want to close the hood here and I want to show you guys some of the exterior styling differences between the ST line and the ST. Of course, you can see it pretty much looks like an ST at the front end because it has the, you know, sport-oriented grille, the blacked out accents, the same full LED headlights. The main difference you're going to notice in the grille is it's missing an ST badge there. That's how you know this is just an ST line. Again, there are a couple of small changes here and there. You still have the black lower front splitter, and this particular color that I'm showing you is the Vapor Blue Metallic, which is also kind of exclusive to the ST. Trim levels, you can't get this color on the Platinum grade version. And then if you want to follow me over to the side of the vehicle, you can see this model here for $1,000 extra has the ST line street package, so it includes the larger 21-inch wheels, which are the same wheels that you get on the ST. They're the magnetite finish. You also have the upgraded brakes here with the red painted calipers and the performance brake pads. So it's kind of nice to see that Ford is giving you the same wheels and brakes available on the ST line versus the ST. There's also an ST line badge here, a subtle one. So again, you can kind of trick your friends into thinking you have the sport-oriented version. but at least Ford kind of gives you the look without the extra, cost of the 6-cylinder. And then if you follow me over to the rear, there's also another small styling change here. You can see because the ST line is not available with the twin turbo V6, you don't get the quad outlet exhaust. Instead, you just have kind of like a dual outlet system, although it's kind of tucked away under the rear bumper. And then of course over here on the side, there's no ST badge here. It's just completely empty. There's a 4-wheel drive badge to let everyone know you have 4-wheel or all-wheel drive, but that's kind of how you're going to be able to tell the differences between the ST and of course this ST line trim that I'm showing you here. So when you take a look at the interior of the 2025 Explorer ST, I hope you guys like a black interior because sadly Ford doesn't offer any lighter colors. If you look at the other trims like the Active or the Platinum, they do offer lighter interior color choices, but this essentially is the black Miko interior, which combines an ultra suede material with a synthetic leather. It also has some ST badging in the actual seat back, and you also have contrast red stitching. The seats definitely look nice. They also look a little bit more aggressively bolstered. They are adjustable in 12 different ways for both the front driver and the passenger seat. These seats are also heated and ventilated and offer a 5-way massage function with 3 different levels of intensity. So there's a lot of upscale touches here. And I have to say, the seats do look nice, but I do wish that Ford offered like a red leather interior. You can get like a dark purple leather in the Platinum gray trim, but a red would be nice, or a light gray interior. You don't necessarily always want a black interior, especially if you have like a white Explorer ST. A red interior would look fantastic. Now, in terms of the door panels, let me show you guys what that's like. Ford did upgrade the materials this year, so you can see the upper portion is a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's leather stitching here. There's some alloy and carbon fiber look trim, which is imitation, I believe. Aluminum accented door handle. The window controls one touch up down for the front windows, but not for the rear windows. The rear are just automatic, but they're not one touch, obviously. You have the upgraded 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo. That's standard, of course, on all ST versions of the Explorer. Down here you can see it's hard touch plastic, but there's some nice storage materials here. You have 3-person memory seats. So overall, the interior certainly makes a great first impression. Now, when I step inside with around just under 8 inches of ground clearance, it has a nice easy step-in height. And then when I shut the door also has a nice solid sounding thunk. Here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it's Ford's current intelligent access key with the ST logo on the back to let you know you have the special model. You have your usual buttons for unlock, lock, remote start, power liftgate, and panic. And then you can also use your phone as a key if you're an owner of the vehicle. Start stop button is where you'd expect it to be. And then of course, it's not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it has a traditional starter noise. And then in terms of the sound, I didn't show you the exhaust earlier, but just like when the Explorer ST first came out, it's not what I would say a very sporty sound, but I also appreciate the fact that it's a V6, so it has that 6-cylinder snarl, but I think Ford could have done more with just giving us some pops and crackles, but that's something that of course you could probably go into the aftermarket for. Now in terms of the steering wheel, you can see the ST gets its own unique 3-spoke design with a thicker rim, of course. It also has a nice flat bottom design with the ST logo here, which is nice. The same cross stitching, contrast stitching with the perforated leather. This is also a heated steering wheel. And then of course there's the camera system where you can basically take a look, or where it's watching you to make sure you're paying attention. This car is available with Blue Cruise, part of a $700 upcharge for a year worth of service. There's also paddles on the wheel to control the 10-speed auto, traditional actual buttons here. The horn, it sounds pretty much what I expect it to be for an Explorer. At least it doesn't sound puny. And then of course, in terms of the dashboard materials, you can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic here. You have like a speaker. It looks like a wide speaker that kind of extends from dash to dash. This is part of the Bang & Olufsen stereo. It certainly looks a lot nicer with this kind of carbon fiber look of imitation trim with the actual stitching over here. But of course, the big story is the new Ford digital experience. So this is a 13.2-inch display, which is standard across the board on every trim level. It includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it flows nicely into the 12.3-inch digital instrument panel, which is also slightly customizable. I forgot to mention, by the way, the steering wheel is a power tilt telescoping adjustment, so it's easy to get very comfortable. This system here, however, has an all-new software system, so I can do things like expand the CarPlay into a full screen layout where it kind of gets rid of the native functions over here. Going back to the native system here, you can see it also has Google built in. It's running off of Android Automotive. You can also go into your widgets where you can kind of pull up individual icons. There's also Google Maps. There's the Google Play Store, Google Assistant, so you can talk to the vehicle and give it commands Of course, the Google Play Store allows you to download apps like Spotify, but I don't think you can download Apple Music into the native system, but that's okay because you have Apple CarPlay built in, so you can still access that. There's also games built in. You can watch movies and videos via the YouTube app here. We can watch your favorite YouTubers, of course. Hopefully that's me, where you can actually type into the YouTube search there. There's also 5G hotspot built in, so you can still look for, you can still do internet web sources and whatnot. There's also WebEx in here, so you can kind of use this almost like a rolling mobile office where you can take video calls in here, which is kind of nice. Again, all of the usual stuff that you kind of expect in today's modern cars. Put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera with trajectory. It's got a top-down view as well. It has distance markers, parking sensors, front and rear cross driver alert. You can also go into a different trailer view if you guys are planning to hook up a trailer, do a panoramic view of the rear. So again, the graphics and resolution, about what I expect it to be. It's nice that Ford includes it, of course, on this specific trim level. Down here you can see there's a wireless phone charging pad. It fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max really well. There's another area here where you can put another smartphone, but the wireless charger is only on the driver's side. I think Ford should have just also offered it on the passenger side. There's some buttons here to turn on and off the start-stop, stability control and whatnot. You can see down here, there's also a nice leather area where you might hit your knee there. It's nice and padded, which is good. Instead of the piano black plastic that we showed you on the Platinum grade, you can see Ford decided to go with a matte finish black, which is nice. You can see, open this up, still a good amount of storage there with your 2 USB charging ports, an A and a C. You can see your transmission selectors here, electronic parking brake, and then your drive mode selector. There's 6 different drive modes going from a tow haul, a sport, an eco, a normal, a slippery, and then a trail mode. Instead of off-road, they call it a trail mode on the ST. Padded center console area here. Then if you open it up, you can see there's 2 USB-C charging ports, a pretty deep storage area as well. So that's great in terms of covered storage. Above me, without the piano sunroof, it does have a little bit more headroom, which is nice, but it also makes this black interior feel even more like a dark abyss. And then you can see here, open this up, there's a nice big glove compartment here, which is damped but not lined with felt. So overall, the interior certainly has a much more upscale and sophisticated vibe. I just want Ford to offer features like a heads-up display and a lighter interior color. But let's go ahead and hop into the second row and the third row, because remember, this is a family vehicle, so Ford is gonna, make sure that there's enough space back here to carry actual full-size adults. Now you can see here the ST has these captain's chairs. Now let me go ahead and shut the door. Sadly, if you guys are looking for a bench seat, it is not available in the Explorer ST, so this limits the seating capacity to 6. If you want a bench, you'll have to step into either the Active, the ST line, or the Platinum trim. You can see the company says that you have, with the seat all the way back, around 39 inches of legroom back here, which is a pretty good amount. I can sit back here at 5'7" in my driving position. I can cross my legs and get very comfortable back here. I have a ton of headroom space. Material quality back here also is the same as the front. You have soft touch here, leather, aluminum look, imitation trim padded over here. You still have these manual retractable sunshades, some metal speaker accents here, a cup holder here in the door. The build quality I'm noticing is a little bit tighter in this model versus in the Platinum that I was just in earlier today. I also really appreciate the rear air vents back here, and then down here at the floor you can see it's not completely flat, but you do have your climate control function down here. It's a single zone. You have 2 level heated seats, but Ford does not offer cooled seats back here, a household power outlet, 2 USB ports, and then you have these really cheap looking tiny cup holders, which are literally reserved for just like cans, soda cans and whatnot. Now, to get into the third row, you can obviously cross through the center path here, but most people probably will end up just pushing the little button on the top, or actually, which there isn't a button on this model. You kind of have to pull this lever here and then the seat will slide forward. That's interesting to me because the Platinum had the button that basically allowed the seat to push forward hydraulically. Not so in the Explorer ST. Now, getting back into the third row area, you can see it's still a pretty decent size, area to get back here. Now, when I slid the seat back here, you can see this is not with the seat all the way back. Ford says you have around 32 inches of legroom back here, which 32, it seems fine on paper, but some of the competitors offer between 2 to 3 more inches of legroom. You can see the seat is not wide enough to accommodate 3. It's really just for 2 people across. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see without the sunroof, there is a pretty decent amount of headroom space, but I have to say at 5'7", my knees are pretty much almost jammed up against this, so kind of keep that in mind. Other competitors will offer more space. You have hard touch plastic materials here, like a cup holder and a little bit of storage here. On this side, you have a little bit more extra storage, and you also have 2 USB-C charging ports. So it definitely feels a little bit, you know, more like this is an afterthought back here. Even the leather material back here is not perforated and there's no ultra suede, but you still have the contrast stitching, but it feels more like a synthetic leather as opposed to more like a genuine leather like you feel in the front seat area. You have small windows here. At least you still have third row air vents and map lights, but you know, if you guys need more space for actual adults in the third row, this is where some of the Explorer's competitors have more space versus this vehicle. So slapping an ST badge on the Ford Explorer certainly was a bold move for Ford when they did it a few years ago, but let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. I never had a chance to actually do so. This is the rear drive model that I'm testing, so we'll brake torque it, which obviously will spin out its tires. We'll not brake torque it this time. Instead, we'll just put our foot down. Wow, 0 to 60 in 5.59 seconds. And I have to say that twin turbo V6 definitely makes a nice sound to it. It's kind of weird to me because I'm not used to driving a family crossover that actually does have wheel spin like that coming from the back end, because typically these cars are front wheel drive based vehicles. But it's kind of cool that Ford decided to go to a rear drive architecture, but still 5.6 seconds is pretty impressive. That's also with it on a completely level surface for the most part. So I think that time should be plenty fast for most people, especially, you know, when you're, you know, coming from a vehicle like a Ford Focus ST, for example. This is actually going to be quicker. Now, in terms of the driving dynamic, the rest of the, you know, time, like you're not going to be driving this vehicle like a sports sedan all the time. This is supposed to be like a family car most of the time, and I have to say, the Explorer is still a really nice driving vehicle. I love the fact that the wheelbase is so incredibly long. It gives this vehicle a really nice planted feel to it. I also have this nice commanding view of the road where I can see out of the front, the side, the rear quite nicely, although I'm surprised still that Ford doesn't offer a digital camera rear view mirror. That should be on the option list because of the fact that this is, again, a family vehicle that you may load it up with a bunch of people and or stuff that could block your view. But I also really like these seats. These are the seats exclusive to the ST, so they have a little bit more aggressive bolstering. I also love the perforation and, of course, the suede Alcantara. It just makes the seat feel like it grips you a lot more, so I think that's really important. I want to try another 0 to 60 run here really quick just to see if we can get a similar time. We'll just floor it again. It shifts at around 5,500. The 10-speed also is quick. All right, 5.46 seconds there. So that's a little bit quicker, and it's still, again, on level ground. So we'll take that time. It is a very impressive time. It pretty much is matching the time, or it's a little bit faster versus the Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max Platinum. Remember, the Toyota has its 2.4 liter turbo with the Hybrid Max, so it has 2 electric motors. The hybrid portion, 362 horsepower, but still the Toyota can't match the sounds that you're getting from underneath the hood, along with the, you know, sounds that you're hearing that's augmented, I believe, and from some of it coming from the exhaust system. And it just feels really nicely. Now, this model also comes with upgraded brakes, and I have to say the brakes, they have a nice strong bite initially. The vehicle, you know, feels like it'll stop on a dime. But you also get a sense that this car weighs a ton. Now, the Explorer also comes with an auto start stop feature, but it's not activating for now. Remember, this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so when it does activate, you are going to feel a slight shudder when it does start up. But overall, I think most people are going to really like the you know, powertrain refinement. It's got a smooth engine, it's got a smooth transmission. Put my foot down again. Oh, there is something really satisfying about a V6. Man, this thing pulls like a freight train, so I like it. I think the V6 is definitely the way to go. We'll hop into the 4-cylinder turbo later on, and we'll see if it's also a nice choice as well. The one thing I am noticing in sport mode, this car doesn't have adaptive dampers, but even in sport, I'll switch it to its normal setting here. I am noticing the ride quality in this vehicle is pretty firm. Remember, we're dealing with a 45 series tire, 275 width, 21-inch wheels, so you do have a relatively narrow profile as well for, you know, considering this is a family SUV. It's not punishing and unbearable, but if you guys are expecting the plushest ride, you're going to be looking at something like the Toyota Grand Highlander or the Honda Pilot, for example, has a better ride quality. This is more akin to the Mazda CX-90, which also had a more firmer style ride, but it's still not, it's still not undrivable. It's just if you want a softer ride, Ford will happily sell you a vehicle that has smaller wheels and tires. You're not going to get that with the ST. All of them come with the big 21-inch wheels. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I also really appreciate the new infotainment system in this car. It just sits right, in your line of sight where you can easily reach it. The screen is also nice and close, which I very much appreciate. It's just kind of easy to settle into this car and just know how to use everything. And it also has, of course, the Google commands built in. There's where the start stop kicked in there. I didn't love that. It's weird because I'm hearing and feeling the back end wanting to step out, which is not what I'm used to for a vehicle like this, but it's solid. It's really smooth. It's refined. And even though the Explorer is getting up there in the years, they haven't really changed anything in terms of the driving dynamics, but this is still a really nice driving vehicle that has a sportier edge, but it's also really refined. Now, in terms of quietness, when you aren't, pushing the engine all the time, it does have a relatively quiet interior. I am hearing a little more road noise creep in than I would like, but it has very little wind noise. And then, of course, when the engine's not being pushed, it has very little engine noise as well. So it's a great road trip car with comfortable seats, plenty of interior space, much nicer materials. So overall, I'm very impressed with how the ST drives. It definitely, feels like it's more catered to a driving enthusiast. But again, not everybody can afford the price tag of the ST. So let's go ahead and hop into the ST line with the base 2.3 liter turbo and see how it compares to this model. So not everybody needs the power or price of a twin turbo V6, and this is where the ST line comes into play with its 300 horsepower turbo 4. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. Ooh. This one we're driving is the all-wheel drive variant, so I can launch it a little bit harder. 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds. 6.4 is actually pretty quick. It's only about a second slower versus the twin turbo V6. Remember, this engine essentially is pulled out of the Ford Mustang EcoBoost, and it's a phenomenal engine paired up with a 10-speed automatic. That time is actually surprisingly fast. I wasn't expecting it to be as quick as it is for a base engine. I mean, you can look at some vehicles in this class which have a naturally aspirated V6, and they take between the high 6s to the mid 7s to get to 60. So I understand while 0 to 60 times aren't necessarily a big deal in this class, it is surprising to me, and it's nice how the Explorer, even with the base engine, is still a relatively quick vehicle. It also is paired up with a smooth shifting 10-speed auto. That's Ford's design transmission. And Ford, when they first came out with this 10-speed, I didn't love the transmission, but the company has been really making improvements to the software and the shift programming, and it's now a really good transmission. It's really closely spaced. It's snappy and it's smooth and its gear changes and whatnot. The ST line, I'm also noticing, does eliminate the paddle shifters. So I was kind of thinking Ford would keep the paddles on this model, but it looks like they're exclusive to the ST trim. The steering wheel feels about the same, which is interesting because it's basically just missing the ST badge in the lower portion of the steering wheel, but it has the same thick rim design, the flat bottom design. It feels nice in your hands. The seats also feel pretty similar, but instead of the Alcantara, they're a cloth insert. And they don't feel quite as aggressively bolstered. I do still have the massage feature, which is nice, but I'm missing the cooled function. So this model that we're driving has the street package. The street package rolls in the 21-inch wheels with the bigger brakes. So put my foot down here again. I really like this base engine. Even though it is a 4-cylinder, it makes some good sounds that has almost like a guttural sound to it. And I think it will be plenty of power for the majority of people who plan to, drive this car around town. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill, and we got, again, 6.5 seconds. So very impressive performance. Again, I'm just really impressed. I wasn't expecting to like the base engine as much as I did, but now that I'm driving this vehicle, it's, it's going to be a lot of power that most people need. Now, in terms of the rest of the driving dynamics, I'm going to switch the drive mode here into its just normal setting. And I definitely noticed the ride quality in this car feels pretty similar to the ST. And that's because the one that we're driving has the street package with the upgraded 21-inch wheels. The suspension tuning also feels pretty similar. The steering in this car is quick, snappy, surprisingly actually. It changes directions quickly. There's just not much feedback coming back from the wheel, which again, it's a big mommy crossover, so you can't really hide the fact that this car weighs in at around 4,500 pounds. It is around 200 to 300 pounds lighter than the ST that I just hopped out of, but it feels pretty similar. There's a nice commanding view of the road. These seats are also comfortable and supportive. I just wish they offered a cooled function. I actually would give up the massage feature to get the cooled function back, because I think cooled seats are a little bit more important in that regard. But overall, if you guys are looking for, just the look of the ST and you don't necessarily need the performance, This base engine will certainly suffice. And remember, it's still a rear-wheel drive platform, so you can actually feel the back end step out slightly when you're, trying to hustle this thing on some of your favorite back roads, or if you just want to make a turn and then with the wheel still turned, put your foot down, and it just, puts a smile on your face in the way that a lot of those front-wheel drive crossovers simply cannot. So when Ford first introduced the all-new Explorer back in 2020, I was a little skeptical when they decided to also introduce an ST version, because I have very fond memories of the Focus ST, the Fiesta ST. Those were just really enthusiast-oriented vehicles. But after spending the day driving the 2025 version of the Explorer ST, I'm really happy to report that there's still a lot of fun to be had. If you guys are a family person now, you need to get rid of your Focus ST and move into something a little bit bigger. Obviously, this car never lets you forget the 4,600 pounds of weight that it carries around. It's a big 3-row SUV, but I love the fact that Ford has thrown in a twin turbocharged V6, because a lot of competitors have now moved to 4 cylinders, or they do naturally aspirated V6s, or they have hybridized powertrains. I'm a little confused as to why Ford decided to not offer the hybrid anymore, but this engine is definitely a gem. It's got a smooth shifting 10-speed automatic transmission, and for those of you who don't need the availability or traction of all-wheel drive, you can also get this in rear-wheel drive like this particular one that I'm showing you. It still doesn't have, to me, the best interior in terms of practicality, because it is obviously usable, but some competitors offer more interior space in the second row, in the third row, and in the trunk area. The ride quality of the ST also can be a little bit more on the firmer side, so just keep that in mind if you guys are looking for the most comfortable ride, or just simply go for a lower trim version of the Explorer. But really, there's still a lot of things to like here, especially when you look at the new infotainment system. I think it's a huge upgrade. I also love the fact that Ford gives you that 13.2-inch display on all trim levels, regardless if you go for the base version. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the new Explorer ST, this is where it's going to cost you a little bit more money versus a lot of its rivals, but at the same time, it's also kind of not as expensive as it used to be, considering when I first drove this vehicle back in 2019. The base pricing of the Explorer is around $39,700 for a base active with rear-wheel drive. The ST will set you back at least $55,500. So that's a little bit more versus the pre-refresh model, because Ford has essentially repositioned the ST to be at the top of the trim line structure. Remember, there's now only 4 trims available on the Explorer family. This model here with rear-wheel drive and the Blue Cruise option for an extra $700 comes in at around $58,495. So just under 60 grand is surprisingly a good deal, but I would probably spend an extra $2,000 and add all-wheel drive, which would push the price to around $60,000. $60,000 is right along the lines of something like a Mazda CX-90 Turbo S or a Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max Platinum. So just keep that in mind. However, what the Explorer does give you is the most sporty looking SUV with the best handling, and again, the pretension that you have a more enthusiast-oriented vehicle. So that's something that Ford is definitely going to offer. And really, only this vehicle and the Mazda CX-90 Turbo S kind of offers similar sporting pretension. So if you're looking for something like that, you should definitely put this vehicle at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Ford Explorer ST. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.